Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Township Committee meeting for January 7th. This is a special meeting, and we're returning from executive session. We have, it's a special meeting primarily to talk about affordable housing, but we do have one separate subject on the agenda that we'll just take care of first. This is a resolution to appoint a new member of the Board of Health. This is simply a person whose paperwork wasn't ready for the reorganization meeting. Greg, can you read that title?
Resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham appointing member to the Board of Health. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham that the following appointment be made effective immediately. Board of Health, Catherine Fowler, term expires December 31st, 2022, and the resolution is dated today.
Thank you, Greg. And her appointment is enthusiastically recommended by the President of the Board of Health. So, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Greg?
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Very good.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Swindako?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now, to get us started on the affordable housing portion of tonight's meeting, the reasons for tonight's special meeting are threefold. One is to update the public on recent affordable housing actions. Two is to listen and consider public comments. And number three is to authorize our township attorney to make necessary court filings, which need to be done by this Friday. As you know, at the December 17th, 2019 Case Management Conference, Judge Michael Gauss directed that if Chatham Township desires an extension of time for compliance and temporary immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits, then the township should do so by motion, to be filed no later than this Friday, January 10th. The township must then appear in court on February 14th to argue its case for an extension and continued immunity, with the judge's decision expected either then or shortly thereafter. The judge's directive is posted on our township website for anyone who wants to look at the language there. The agenda for tonight's meeting is simple. It says, quote, update and general discussion of affordable housing, end of quote. But to give the meeting more structure and to let the public know how we will proceed, we will begin with an update of our affordable housing progress, which will be led by our administrator, Robert Hoffman. Then we're going to proceed with an explanation of tonight's resolution, and that part of the discussion will be led by our attorney, Albert Cruz. We'll then have the public comment for people to voice any and all opinions on what they've heard and what they're thinking in terms of the subject. And after the public comment, we will have and listening to all the comments, the Township Committee will discuss the proposed resolution asking the court to approve our development fee ordinance and our spending plan, and to grant an extension of time for us to identify a site or sites for affordable housing. We expect the Township Committee will vote tonight to authorize our Township Attorney to file a motion for some length of extension before the January 10th deadline. So with that kind of framework, I would like to hand off to our administrator to give us an update on where things stand with our affordable housing project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year, everyone. Good evening. Tonight, I'm pleased to report that the DEP has provided the township with a positive response to its request to allow the development, additional development at the skateboard park using a 75-foot buffer rather than a 150-foot buffer. This positive response is a direct result of the township's effort going back to late September and October of 2019 in seeking additional suitable sites for the construction of affordable housing rental units. Township Engineer John Rushke deserves to be commended for his efforts to schedule a meeting with DEP Assistant Commissioner for Land Use Management, Ginger Kopkash. The Assistant Commissioner met with John and I on the afternoon of November 20th, 2019. She believed, after our presentation, that the township's request to use the skateboard site for additional affordable housing units, rental units, had merit. The Assistant Commissioner was also sympathetic to the township's timeline for the implementation of our court-approved agreement to construct rental housing units. The Assistant Commissioner fast-tracked a meeting with the DEP staff to review the township's request. The township engineer and I met with the DEP staff in Trenton on Tuesday afternoon, December 17th, to review the township's request. And I'm going to ask John to provide an overview of both meetings, since he did yeoman's work on this. So, John?
Sure. Basically, the development of the 24 affordable housing units was basically undertaken by the developer of Sterling and Son Properties, and it was associated with the Dixie Dale property. And as part of the initial permitting process, they went for a general permit, and they specifically stayed out of the 150-foot buffer from the wetlands that were delineated on the property. We did pursue the DEP to look at a redevelopment permit within the 150-foot buffer, and identifying that the skate park is present, and basically all the landscape lawn that was around the skate park was also disturbed and not native buffer. And basically, the DEP has identified some constraints that we need to adhere to, but it does open up that area to a small area for further development. DEP basically identified that we cannot extend any improvements, being the building or pavement, into the 75-foot buffer. However, they would allow grading, they would allow a detention basin, and there is a permit process that needs to go through regarding some environmental studies regarding threatened and endangered species. But we got a very favorable response that further development closer to the wetlands appears to be feasible, and we're pursuing that option.
Thank you. Can I continue, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
All right, thank you. And then on another note, on Friday, January 3rd, which was last Friday, the township was served with a complaint in lieu of prerogative writs, which was related to the township's effort to identify locations for affordable housing units. So that's a legal way of saying it's a complaint against a governmental action, or a proposed governmental action. So the township may become involved in litigation over the use of the municipal building as a potential site. So the township will have to respond to this complaint by February 7th. So because of this complaint, it may limit the township's ability to comment on some of our affordable housing actions. Not all, but on some of our affordable housing actions. I wanted to also provide a recap of some of the efforts that have happened over the past 3 years with the township's effort to settle this matter of litigation for affordable housing. And it's important to emphasize that the township has been looking at this, grappling with this since 2015. And the Township Committee has kept in mind that they have a constitutional requirement to meet affordable housing needs, but they also need to do it using as sound planning methods as possible. And as former Committeeman Ritter said, the Township Committee had to make decisions, the best decisions, based on not so great sites and other factors that had to be taken into account. So the decision that was the Township Committee made in December of 2018, it helped prevent the development of a significant amount of market rate units. You've heard the term 800 units that might have been prevented, but basically it prevented a maximum development of 14 units per acre in different areas of the township. And that's important, because that affects the decision that the governing body took and what the Township Committee in 2019 and 2020 is trying to implement is looking to place affordable rental housing units for families on municipally owned property because that's part of the settlement. But by doing so, they have prevented increased density, increased enrollment in our school system. They've helped to reduce traffic flow and wear and tear on our infrastructure, whether that's our sanitary sewers or our roads. So the decision that was made has been in the best interest of the township, and the township committees have grappled with this discussion, and they've used sound methods to try and come up with how to respond to the constitutional mandate, how to use good planning, and how to look at what is the capacity for our different forms of infrastructure, being schools, roads, sanitary sewers, things of that nature, as well as traffic flow. And then in closing, what I would also like to say is that looking back over the past year, the township staff and members of the township committees, past and present, have met with six developers who specialize in developing affordable housing projects. There were several others that the township had vetted, but we met with six because they had a very good track record, and so we had requested that they look at specific sites. They've done work. They have provided the township with information. There's ongoing discussions with some of those developers, but this is something that has been methodical, and it has been vetted, and it's the township staff, the township elected officials, making sure that we are doing the best for our municipality, for our residents, and looking at all factors. So, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that that was brought out, that we have talked to several different developers, but we have met with six that have a good track record. And that's my report for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the next step is to ask Township Attorney Albert Cruz if he would kind of dig into the resolution that's going to be on the agenda for discussion tonight.
Mr. Mayor, what I would like to do is start by reading the resolution. Whereas at the December 17, 2019 Case Management Conference in the Township of Chatham Affordable Housing Declaratory Judgment Action, Judge Michael C. Gauss directed that if the township desired an extension of the time for compliance and temporary immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits, that the township should do so by motion to be filed no later than January 10, 2020. And whereas the township desires to file such a motion, and so directs the township attorney. And whereas the township desires that the motion seek the following relief. A, that Township Ordinance 2019-22, a development fee ordinance, and related spending plan be approved. B, that the township be granted until, and that space is left blank, that the township be granted until blank 2020 for compliance with a compliance hearing to be scheduled thereafter. C, that the construction start date of the 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing development be adjusted until June 30, 2022, and that the township's immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits be extended until the compliance hearing. And whereas the Township Committee hereby reaffirms the terms and conditions of the December 13, 2018 settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing, Inc., as to be modified by this motion. Now therefore it be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. 1, the Township Attorney is hereby directed to file the motion described in this resolution by January 10, 2020, and to file any necessary responses or opposition to any cross motions. 2, this resolution shall take effect immediately. Let me, Mayor, with your permission, explain a few of the components of the resolution. As you know, it was on December 19th, 2019, that the township did adopt a development fee ordinance. Up to this point, the township has not collected any development fees, but it has incurred expenses related to promoting affordable housing. The primary expense that comes to mind is the payments that are made to the Vernon Grove Condominium Association for the extension of the affordability controls there for 72 units for a 30-year period. That agreement was entered into in 2017, and the township has made payments pursuant to that agreement in the last 3 years. Those payments were made out of the general operating budget of the municipality. The development fee will be utilized to offset some of those payments in the past and going forward. They're related to the development fee. The development fee is the mechanism to collect fees. The spending plan is the mechanism to spend those fees. The spending plan is an estimate. It estimates the amount of development fees that will be collected, and it estimates what will be spent. The development fees have to be spent consistent with applicable affordable housing regulations. So I am asking the court to adopt that, approve that ordinance and approve the spending plan. The spending plan hasn't been approved by you yet. It is still in draft form, but I anticipate that it will be presented to you at the January 30, 2020 meeting for your review and approval. And again, the spending plan is an estimate of the revenues coming in and revenues going out. Typically, the court does not look at the development fee ordinance or the spending plan on an interim basis. It does so at the compliance hearing, but because you have had expenses and it is advisable to start collecting those fees to offset those expenses. So that is the first two things that are being requested for approval. The second item that is being requested for approval is the granting of an extension to achieve compliance with the settlement agreement. I am recommending that the Township Committee request 120 days to June 20th, 2020. The reason for that is twofold. First of all, from December 17th to February 14th, essentially the Township Committee got a 2-month extension, which the Township Committee has utilized as described by the administrator and the engineer to move forward with its plan. The second reason, and in my mind the more significant reason, is that the most recent case where a judge, a court, ruled on an extension for affordability, an extension of compliance and an extension of the immunity from developers' lawsuit. In that case, the special master had recommended 90 days. The court rejected that. And in fact, in that particular case, and while having some parallels to Chatham Township, is not fully parallel to the township, my feeling was that 90 days, if it was rejected in that case, would probably be, if we went beyond 90 days, the township would run a risk that it would not be approved. But in looking at the materials that, and the actions that the township took during the last year, in good faith efforts to continue to move forward with affordable housing, I thought a 120-day period was reasonable when you look at all of the factors and all of the considerations that the township has accomplished this past year. So my recommendation is 120 days with the compliance hearing to be set after that. As part of the request for the extensions, there will be certifications that are still in draft form. I am finalizing them, but there will be a certification from the clerk which itemizes all of the actions that took place in 2019, all of the resolutions, all of the ordinances that the Township Committee adopted during 2019 in furtherance of the settlement agreement. There is an affidavit or certification from myself explaining the Vernon Grove settlement and why it is important for the township that the court approve the development fee ordinance and the spending plan now, so that the township can start recouping some of the expenses that it has incurred with respect to Vernon Grove. You don't collect all the money up front. It really is collected as development occurs based upon the parameters of the development fee ordinance that was adopted on December 19th. The settlement agreement also required a construction start date. That construction start date was to be June 30th, 2021, because of the passage of time and the other extensions that have been granted. I am also asking that the start date of construction be extended to June 30th, 2022. And lastly, that immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits be extended until the compliance hearing when that is scheduled by the court. So the 120 days, unlike the resolution that you adopted on December 12th that contained certain deadlines, essentially they became a little bit too constrictive on how the township would proceed forward. So the 120 days gives you a block of time, and you can manage it as you see appropriate, have whatever meetings and discussions you want, special meetings, other types of discussions, but it allows the township committee to manage that block of time to meet the requirements of the settlement agreement.
We'll have public comments in a few minutes, but that's a good question, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
So at this point, that is my explanation of the resolution, reading the resolution, and how we've come up to the recommendation that I'm making, and an explanation of the certifications. The certifications are geared to showing that the township has been acting in good faith and that it merits an extension.
Thank you. Does anyone in the Township Committee have any questions at this point?
I do have one question, Counselor. When it comes to the original intended date of construction to be commenced on June of 2021, and if we are applying for a 120-day extension, I'm a little curious about how that goes over translating into a commencement date of construction a full year later.
Well,
And is it feasible that
the rationale for that is that a developer that would be building 100% affordable housing development would be applying for, at a minimum, tax credits. And there are two types of tax credits: 9% tax credits, 4% tax credits. The 9% tax credits are administered through the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. They go through a funding cycle and a competitive process to award these tax credits. And my understanding is that this year, those applications are due in June of 2020. And part of a completed application for a tax credit includes having to have site plan approval for that development. And it's just simply between now and June, there isn't enough time to go through that planning process. It's a similar planning process that went through for Dixie-Dale Farm and for the skate park or Arbor Green. So that process, one of the things they have to show, it's like making a mortgage application. Part of this mortgage application is to have approval for a site. Okay? So it really is tied into the funding cycle.
If I could just pursue that thought about 120 days, if I could, Albert. You explained that it's part of your logic is that the recent precedent and what was asked and what was rejected by other courts, and also the fact that we have while this on the resolution is asking for a 4-month extension, we have been given 2 months during this legal process that we've been using to move the ball forward on this whole exercise. So it really is a 6-month working period. But I guess my question, and maybe it's really more for our administrator, is, is 4 months enough? 4 months plus this, we still have a month and a half here, but is before the 4 months would even start, if granted. But I mean, what's your opinion of the usefulness of that amount of time?
It's going to be tight, but it's something that we can do, and I don't believe that we have another option. So I believe that we, based on an analysis that was done yesterday, it will be tight, but we will be able to accomplish it.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just?
Sure.
Question? Albert, can I just ask about the timing? The January 10th, so you have this resolution, is this submitted January 10th, or are you looking to submit this February?
No. The schedule that the judge put forth in the case management order, which is on the website, is the township files its motion January 10th.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, Fair Share Housing, if it desires, files any opposition and any cross motion.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks after that, February 7th, I reply to their response and cross motions. Then on February 12th, the special master, having reviewed all of these submissions, makes a recommendation to the court, and then a hearing is held on February 14th at 1:30.
Okay.
It is at that point where the judge reviews, or the judge would have already reviewed all of the materials, including the special master's report, but he hears oral argument on the requests, asks whatever questions he has, and makes a decision probably that day, or if not that day, shortly after that.
Okay, because maybe I should clarify my question. In this resolution, it says, the motion seek the following relief, the development fee ordinance and related spending plan be approved. We won't look at that spending plan or
Correct.
approve it till January 30th.
Correct, and what Mr. LaConte's certification says is that he anticipates that the spending plan will be acted upon and considered by you on January 30th, and that it will be submitted to the court. I am waiting, as I said, I'm waiting for a draft of the spending plan. It's my intention to submit that to the court in draft form so they can see it ahead of time. But assuming you act on January 30th, then we'll submit the actual approved plan.
Okay.
But just understand, there's not a lot of mystery to the spending plan. The spending plan is a projection of the fees that are going to be developed, that are going to be collected from development based upon historical information, and the spending of that money follows the formula set forth in the COA regulations, or the affordable housing regulations.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If no other questions, the next step would be to proceed to the public comment portion of the meeting. And on that note, I want to welcome everyone who's here tonight. A couple of comments before we start this next stage. Please understand that as a matter under litigation, we will not be able to discuss the lawsuit that has been filed against the township opposing any affordable housing here at 58 Marsville Road. Our attorney has until February 7th to respond to that lawsuit, and the actual document our attorney's response will be posted on our website for the public to read. A number of you over the last couple of weeks have suggested various sites and strategies that we should look at for affordable housing. And more suggestions may be made tonight, and we welcome your ideas and will add them to our list for consideration. But please understand that we cannot address the pros and cons of specific sites tonight. As you heard earlier, we are still gathering information on sites, so a response would be premature, In addition, the township should not publicly discuss any properties that are privately owned. So by all means, any suggestions are welcome, but please don't hold us up to a requirement to be able to reply substantively to the pros and cons of sites when that is an exercise that we're working toward for the end of the month. And finally, let me read our normal public comment introductory paragraph. This is the hearing of citizens and petitions, and please note, this is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for separate public hearings tonight, and none are, to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and please, all those who do have something to say, please approach the microphone so that all can be heard. So thank you very much, and we are here to listen.
Back again. This is Mike Oyen, 3 Hillcrest Avenue. My theme tonight is, I think, in order to have a fully suitable multi-site plan developed, it's going to be necessary to have more sites identified beyond the 6 that were originally identified. I think that's overly restrictive. Now, in talking to Mayor Kelly in the Saturday meetings, it seems to me that there are 2 problems with trying to identify sites. One is the timing available, and the other is the cost. So I'd like to start with the cost issue first, and then hopefully later talk to Mr. Cruz about the constraints on timing. I developed this, what I call a metric, or a concept for a metric to look at the relative merits of different sites that might be developed. And I sent an email out on this, and I don't know whether it's been read, but the concept is that if you donate land to a developer, that basically represents a subsidy cost to the township that should be acknowledged. If you pay the developer like $2 or $3 million to retain a gym or a senior center, that's an additional cost. At other sites, and those refer mainly to the municipal building, at other sites like the River Road site, the major cost may be providing sewering. So how do you weigh the relative merits of those 2 sites? So what I would like to do is establish a metric that says you add up the total subsidy costs for land, direct subsidy to the builder, sewers, whatever has to be done at a particular site, you add them up, divide by the number of units at that site, because the sites have different number of units, and you get basically a subsidy per site, per unit at a given site, okay? Now, I did some numbers in that memo I sent out, and unfortunately, they were not entirely correct. So let me give a little update. I talked to Mr. Hoffman this morning, and it appears that I way overestimated the cost of the municipal building land component in the memo, because it's now clear they're not going to give the full site to the developer, but only the building site and part of the parking lot. The township would retain ownership of the other part of the site. So that would bring down the maximum, the land component of subsidy for the municipal building development. But even if you only assume it's half of what I had previously said, it could still be on the order of $50,000 to $75,000 per unit of subsidy to develop this plant, this place. If you look at the River Road site, I had outlandishly overestimated the cost of the sewer system. I misunderstood what Bob had told me. It's really only $1.7 billion, and that brings the sewer component of subsidy for the River Road site way down to more to the tune of like $20,000 or $30,000. Depends on the size of the development. The more sites, if you put in 60 units, it's a lot less than if you only put in 30. But
Mr. Torrey, that is an excellent suggestion, and we are actually doing exactly that. I think I'll give you credit for having raised it in your emails.
Okay.
So I didn't want you to waste your 5 minutes going over something that we agree with you 100%.
Okay, but that's-
So if you have if you want to jump right to the conclusion.
Okay, that
feel free.
sets the, okay, that sets the stage for my next, what I really wanted to discuss is how do you evaluate what it's fair to pay for a property? And I think you have to look at paying for a property, taking into account what we're subsidizing for other properties that we own. Because when we give them away, we're really giving away value. And you have to then compare what you're giving away to the value, or to the cost of a new property. And if I get a chance, I'll then try to pick up on that theme. That was my 5:30 memo I sent out. I don't think you've read.
Thank you very much.
I'll give him my 5. Yeah. If you want to.
No, anybody else want to?
Next?
Mike, please.
No. We have some ground rules here.
Okay.
We can't have 50 people giving all their time to one speaker. So, please.
Doug Pitney, 54 Mountain View Road in Chatham Township. I have met with Mr. Hoffman about a week and a half ago, and I actually have a display that I'd like to show, if that would be all right, if I can lay it on the table right here.
Please.
Terrific. What we spoke about a week and a half ago Friday was other development possibility at the skate park / police station, and we did discuss the 75-foot setback. So I have that in my pocket a little bit. Just to give you a little bit of background, for me, my background is consulting civil engineering. I no longer maintain a PE license, but I did do land development engineering for about 5 years. I spent 5 years designing mass transit railroad systems, and I've been an architectural model maker for the past 20 years. So what I offered to Bob is that I would look at the possibility of making some wholesale changes to the design at the skate park. And I don't know if you'll be able to see from there. Maybe you want to come down here and see what I've proposed. But basically, my consideration in the overall scheme of things is to move the police station here. Set up the shop here. It's my understanding that the police are dispatched out of their vehicles, and there's no reason to necessarily have that spot over there. There's obviously going to be a cost associated with getting the police station up to speed with the current state regulations. So that makes that spot available. So what I've done here is I've taken a superposition of parking and some buildings, and probably with a little bit of persuasion, we're looking at a total of 60 units that can fit on the skate park and police station area. And there's a number of different considerations as to how they could be laid out. Again, I've been out of this professionally for a short period of time, but I think that I've come up with a scheme that at least shows the possibility of putting in more units at the skate park / police station. And here, maximum of 60. I'm not sure if it would actually support 60, maybe a little bit less, but I've tried to over-exaggerate the size of the buildings based upon the original application that's been approved. So just a thought here that one site that we've taken a look at, as we've discussed, I've also mentioned that I would look at the River Road site, which I'll be doing next. But my thought is, as you know, I've come before the previous committee. I really think that we have to sit down, roll up our sleeves, and start looking at what these sites would look like, who's going to be impacted by this, what the if this is really the best way to do this. In the way I would really like to see it is the first building that is in the municipal complex, where the lifts are and the parts and the repairs. I'd like to see that building moved. I'd like to see it moved back and give that whole facility a new building. Obviously, there's a cost associated with that, but that building's outdated. And that takes that building out of the backyard of these people that we be putting in 60 units for. So just a consideration for starters. I don't know if you can see what I've done here, and actually, interesting enough, you can almost flip the location of the way the driveway works to get it to maybe there's considerations of proximity of driveways coming in between the golf club and what I'm proposing here. But what this is doing, for those who can't see, is I'm under the impression that with the agreement that the DEP has given us, is that we can actually use the area that's the skate park itself, the paved area, we can work in, which is a huge difference compared to the 150-foot setback. So it gives a great possibility. So, thank you.
Thank you.
How many stories is it?
I've assumed 2 stories. And I've assumed, I think I just did some basic math with what I saw on the approval for Arbor Green. One of these represents 16 dwelling units and 24 parking spaces. I've got 60 dwelling units here, and I only have 83 parking spaces where you need 90 by that math. So maybe you'll lose a couple of dwelling units, or maybe you shoehorn in a couple extra parking spaces somewhere. But it just shows that with a little bit of work, we can come up with an alternative. The way I've set this up is I wanted to break up the mass of the buildings so that it didn't look like one wall of building from Southern Boulevard. I wanted to put the parking in the back to keep the buildings actually a little bit farther away from the municipal office area.
Doug, is that what the 75-foot setback is?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Doug, is that in addition to the 24?
No,
That
that's
includes the
60 total.
including the 24?
Excuse me,
60 total.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah. No, that's a wonderful first proposal. Are you around on Monday where we could get together, lay that out in the conference room and take a look at
it? If I may, first on your diagram, the DEP is going to hold us to the 75 feet, so we do have to take this section of the parking lot out and restore that area. I'm telling you what the DEP
Hold
said.
it, we've got, we should be talking, we should talk about this on Monday, but we've exceeded the 5 minutes, and there's other people that need to do that. Perhaps Mr. Pitney can come back, but you can have a
But Bob,
conversation.
if I may, can I it's great that he's looking at this, but I'm just saying, that's the criteria that the DEP has set in order to allow us to, and that's a very significant, conveyance of the DEP to allow us to work within the 75, but that is taking out this section of the parking lot, of the skate park, and so we are working within 75 feet, we have to be outside the 75-foot buffer, so you have to.
We were getting the
No,
impervious
I'm telling you no. I'm telling you no.
Okay.
You have to take that out. And we're already looking at the possibility of putting 9 units in this location and putting 32 at the police building, which would be 41, which actually brings us up to 65. So we are looking at this.
Okay.
And so, the other complication is that, we do have a developer who spent an incredible amount of money going through the planning board, has planning board approval. So, we do have to deal with the consent and coordination with the developer who has invested quite a bit to do it. So right now, we're looking at the possibility of, working on either side of that development. We can, that is an option. The township hasn't conveyed the property, but it gets very complicated to start changing what is already approved by the developer. So we are looking at, this as an option, as looking at multiple options, but this is one option of maximizing the units here, keeping everything 2 stories, not going to 3. We could certainly start to look at 3 stories here and even get more units, but, right now, we're trying to focus on. Well, yeah.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Mr. Pitney.
I do want to say one thing. I don't agree at all with holding us to the footprint that's been approved already. That's floor plan.
Okay. Thank you for the thought and attention on that, and I appreciate you speaking further with the administrator to fine tune that.
What time?
Let's Was that?
We'll talk.
Okay, thank you.
Rich Matlaga from 36 Dale Drive. First of all, I was out of town and I missed the organization meeting, so congratulations to Stacy and to Celeste, and I'm glad we have a new crowd. I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer here, but I got involved in affordable housing because of the parking situation that was going to be at the skateboard park with the 24 units. New Jersey Standard Code said 2 units per, or 2 parking spaces per unit. So if you have 24 units, that's 48 parking spaces. What's approved by the planning board currently is for some number between 36, 38, somewhere in that range, but it is not specified. If you put 60 units at the skateboard park, you should have 120 parking spaces. 120 parking spaces takes up a lot of room. If you parked this evening, that's 53 spaces in that lot down there. So picture it, more than double the size of that lot will need to be paved. So I find that to be of a concern as we go forward and try to plan out how to do this. I also have concern that we are next to the wetlands, and we feel so little about our wetlands that we want to infringe upon the 150. We'll go to 75 because that's convenient for us. So we will build this housing. Now, figure what's going to be put there. Currently, 24 units, not adequate parking. By the way, there's not adequate storage, which means bicycles and kids' toys will be outside. We're now going to go into wetlands, which will have a moisture problem, maybe mold 10 years down the road. I don't believe our affordable housing should be substandard housing, and that's my concern. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Thank you.
Matt Kahn, 2 Country Club Drive. So we're here right now because there's a proposal that was put forth in November to put 65 some odd units here. And that was met with swift opposition by the residents of this area. All we keep hearing after these subsequent meetings is finding all these creative alternative solutions for putting all of the requirement, not here, not a single unit here, but finding ways, jumping through hoops through the DEP to put it all on Southern Boulevard. I can tell you that the residents who live on and around Southern Boulevard, you think the opposition that you met in November was strong? It'll be even stronger if that's a legitimate solution that's being proposed to put nothing here and put it all on the skate park site and move the police station. Not only do these residents who've commented want to put all of it on the skate park site and the police station site, but they want to move the services over here. So when we talk about equitability and finding equitable solutions, it's not equitable. When the 24 units was already put up and agreed to on for the Dixie-Dale development, there wasn't this crazy backlash that we got in November from the residents of this area. We took it. And all we hear now is, not here, not here, not here. Let's take everything, all the services, put them over here and put everything of affordable housing over there. It's not equitable and it's not fair. And not to mention that we're spending all this time and money and taxpayer dollars to figure out alternative solutions to not have a single unit put here when that was what was first proposed. So we have this timeline. We'll see what happens with the judge. A lot of it depends on what they say and what he says. But it should be spread around, right? There shouldn't be these 4 two-story buildings all on one area. Like, why are we even contemplating or allowing this to be talked about? It was not acceptable here. Why is it acceptable over there? I just don't understand. And nobody.
Please, Mr. Khan, I apologize if that impression came across, and I can understand how it has, because everybody has a perspective when they come to the microphone. But be assured that we are looking at 3 municipal properties, 3 sites, and a number of smaller non-municipal sites. I mean, we are definitely still looking here. We are definitely looking at the Skate Park Police Department site, and we are definitely looking at the River Road site that we had identified at the very start of the whole process. And beyond those 3, we are listening to suggestions and trying to see if they fit into the matrix. But we are not anywhere near the point of the concern that you voiced.
I appreciate that, and I want to commend the committee for all the hard work. This is a very difficult position for you guys to be in, and it's a very tough puzzle to solve. Getting residents to sacrifice and accept what the resolution will be, it's not easy. And so I truly appreciate that. But when I hear things like the suggestion that was just brought up to have, you know, a model that was done to put 4 2-story buildings on the skate park site and put 65 or 70 units there, and the comments made, well, let's sit down and talk about it on Monday, that concerns me, that there's going to be a discussion about it that is going to not include the residents of that area, and all of a sudden we're getting steamrolled. It wasn't acceptable here. I don't know why it's acceptable there. We're all for an equitable solution, and that's what it should be.
Okay, at this point, it's all input, and we're trying to accept it and then evaluate it.
And we are looking at a variety of, within these sites, a variety of options. Some here, some at the skate park, some potentially at another site, looking into private areas. So, you know, we took to heart what people said about wanting to spread this throughout the town, and that would include this site.
For sure. The litigation that was put forth, I believe, by the Felices is problematic because while on one hand they want more transparency into the process, it sounds like by having that litigation in place, you have to be less transparent because there's things you can't talk about, number one. And number two is, not only do we have to figure out and solve this issue with the affordable housing, where to put it, but now you and the council's time needs to be spent on addressing that litigation. So I can appreciate the anger and frustration with what's been going on, but putting in litigation to take focus away from the main problem is not the answer, and it's costing all of us money. For them, the dollars to be spent to fight that and to address that is costing all of us money. So I think that that's problematic, and I just wanted to address that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, committee, Mayor Kelly. So I sent a letter to
Could you have your
everyone.
name and,
Chris Batoni, 9 Dogwood Drive.
thank you.
I sent a letter to you all. It may be hitting your inbox tomorrow, but just a couple points. I live right around the corner. This is important to me as it is to everyone here. But in the interest of time, I'll paraphrase the letter, but a few points that are truly important to me and I think have become somewhat of a consensus in this room. Some of which are troubling, and I hope that this exercise isn't just lip service for what some of us in this room think will ultimately end up being a single site solution right here. That's my hope. Number one, there's still no at-the-market formal appraisal of this municipal land and or any cost-benefit analysis to a single site or a multi-site solution that we have heard about. The consensus is that we're giving away a land deeply undervalued against what I believe is a decade-old assessment. First point. Second point, there's really no still publicly available studies on how any single site will add to congested roads, whether infrastructure in place even supports a single site, school capacities, the costs associated. Some of us pay for full-day kindergarten. I send my kids to public school, but I have to pay for full-day kindergarten. And the reason that it's not afforded to everyone, every kindergartner in this community, is space. So what happens then? I mean, do space issues compound themselves in any single site? Spatial issue at Southern Boulevard. So I guess on that point, are we suggesting that we have space for some initiatives and not the space to educate more of our young children that already live here? Third point, the terms of the planning process with regard to the community involvement seem to evolve, but the deadlines don't. There's been no wiggle room, and 2 months from November to February doesn't feel like a true extension. It feels like holidays and back and forth with very little in the way of actual progress. So, I mean, what certain members of the community, Mike and others, have been able to do in what amounts to the last couple of weeks is pretty impressive. I think with a little more time, we can expand on that and truly arrive at a solution that works for not only the folks who live here, but our neighbors who will be living here, right? Number 4, the unwillingness of a past committee to look behind, or beyond rather, the 6 predetermined township-owned sites seems a little short-sighted and not in the interest of the lower-income families for which this exercise benefits the most. Why not think a little bit outside the box here? Why not look at non-owned sites? Why not look at, I mean, would this consideration truly be more costly than giving up a piece of land no one actually knows the true market value of? Would anyone know if it was? These are questions that we all have still. I mean, and we are approaching what feels like a very hard deadline, and there's just way too many questions in the process. Number 5, simply doing nothing and being exposed to builders' remedy lawsuits as well as any revised affordable housing mandate is not an option that any of us want to go through. It's not going away. It didn't go away in Milburn, didn't go away in Madison, didn't go away in Morristown. It's here, and we welcome it. We're asking to be involved. You will find that many of our neighbors actually do want to do their fair share and provide a lasting solution. There is no redo here. Most importantly, we've heard from a lot of our neighbors these last few meetings. Not a single person in any of the last township meetings on affordable housing has stood up here and said, you know what? This municipal building or that skate park, that's going to work here. That's a great idea. I don't think anyone in this room has ever heard a convincing argument for any single site solution, period. It just doesn't work. I mean, I've never heard that someone stand up here in front of this podium and say, it's a good idea because it fits with the traffic flow or the character of the community. The infrastructure, the capacity to educate our new neighbors. It provides easy access to public transportation, employment, places of worship, things that we all need to thrive to be part of a community like ours. A single site solution at the municipal building or at the skate park isn't an option that anyone in the town, or at least personally, as I see, viable or preferred. Literally no one. I haven't heard a convincing argument for it, like I said.
Mr. Batone, Tony, that's 5 minutes, if you could just...
I'm gonna wrap it up.
Very good.
I'm gonna wrap it up. I'd urge all members of the community, those here and those watching at home, as well as those who will probably argue against an extension in February, to go through the Mount Laurel doctrine. Those years passed between Mount Laurel 1 and 2. What does that tell you about the time it takes to get the process right? Years, decades. We've been doing this, what, 3 months? We've got a dozen solutions. 5 years passed, maybe more, between Mount Laurel 1 and 2, because they didn't get it right the first time. We're talking a decade.
Okay, thank you very much.
The irony in all this is that as we look to uphold the spirit of legislation, by not fighting and demanding for more time, in an ironic way, we're choosing to act in the same spirit that the Mount Laurel doctrine was established to contest. We need more time. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, I should have brought this up in my administrator's report, but there's going to be, we are going to be receiving commercial appraisal reports probably on January 24th for this building as well as for the police department building. And then we are also going to be receiving some other reports which have updated costs for the renovation of this building, the renovation of the police department building with secure sally ports and holding cells, as well as what would be the cost to move the police department up here with a Sally Port and holding cells and make this building more energy efficient, as well as what would be the cost for a new combined municipal building and police department building, so that we have objective information that we can make decisions on. And I'd also like to point out that the township has been grappling with this issue since 2015, so it's been years, not months. And the agreement says that we have to look at property that is municipally owned. So that's where we've been looking. There are other options, as you had mentioned, to make some property municipally owned, but there's there is objective information that's coming down the pike and will be available before the end of January.
Thank you. Let me just add to what the administrator said, and if people would wait and take their turn, that would appreciate it. But basically, this is, when we say that we're making good use of these 2 months that we're in the process of filing with the judge to get a formal 4-month extension, we are using these first 2 months. We have 6 developers that we've been working with to give us information about all the different sites that we're looking at. We have 2 appraisers working. We've got 2 different attorneys, our township attorney and our planning board attorney. We have our professional planner, who is one of the foremost professional planners in the state, and in fact is one of the court masters for the affordable housing issue in a different vicinage than where we're located, but he's intimately knowledgeable about the subject. We have our township engineer, and because he's a consulting engineer from Mott McDonald, he stands behind him as the architects and engineers that make up that large corporate engineering company. So we definitely are tapping into a wide range of expertise. Most, if not all of them, are scheduled to make reports to us toward the end of this month, and we hope to have a lot more data to share as we start February. But I think that what we're trying to do now is to gather your information, to let you know that we are working hard to gather more information to give back to you, but it's premature to try to pretend that we have those answers right now. Yes?
I would also like to add, Mr. Bertoni, Mike Kelly and I were elected to our positions in 2014, and right out of the gate, we were brought up to speed on Chatham Township responsibility towards fulfilling round 3 of the Mount Laurel decisions. The numbers that came at us when we were first brought up to speed on this were in the hundreds, were 5 times what we are being mandated right now. And the work that went into coming up with the figures that we are currently grappling with, the effort and the negotiation and the pointing out of various options to us really literally took years. The idea that we're just bringing this to the public now is unfortunately a bit of a shock to all of our residents, but we have been under litigation. We have been literally being sued by the Fair Share Housing Center since then because of COA inability to come to grips with holding the municipalities responsible. So it's a shock to the system right now for the folks of this township, but this is something that we have literally been grappling with for years. We're in 2020 now. The fact that we were sworn into office in 2015 speaks exactly to how long we've been grappling with this.
I don't think anyone feels comfort in the fact that you guys have been working on this for 5 years. That makes it.
What was our original number? What do you recall, Mr. Cruz? It was 600. It was 600 and something that we were originally obliged to come up with affordable units for finding 600 units of affordable housing in our township. So to come up with the idea that this is what we're doing now, we're down to the last 76 units, I think my predecessors and Mayor Kelly and I have worked very hard on it. So I apologize for the feeling that you don't see things your way.
Thank you, Karen.
I also wanted to comment, if you don't mind.
Please.
I think that, I hear this all the time. You're giving away the building. You're giving away this. You're giving away that. I think what everyone needs to understand, and really, really understand, not just the words of it, but the settlement calls for a municipally owned site. So is there value in this building? Yes, there's value in the building. Not too sure how much in the condition that it's in, but there's value in the building. There's value in the police building. Again, we face the same issues with the police building. The roof is 43 years old. There's issues, but there's a value in that building. There's a value in land at River Road. Even though it's steep slopes and there's no sewer, there's value to that. There's also value to the private owners of homes that we're talking to. There's value in that. And we'll have to purchase if we decide to go forward with private land. But no matter what we do, whether we purchase or we give land at the skate park, or we give land here and give land at whatever address we do, that's what the settlement calls for, municipally owned land. So you can talk about it, so we need to understand what we're talking about when we're saying, oh, you're giving it away. Yes, in effect we are, whether we spend $400,000 for a piece of private land, we will take that as a cost as part of the development of that area for affordable housing, because that cost doesn't get passed to the developer. That's our cost for determining the settlement and getting that lower number, going from 597 units to 100 units or 98 units. So I just want to be clear on that, because I've seen it in headlines, I've heard people say it, and I just want to be very clear that, yes, it's true. We're going to be giving that land away. We're going to be giving that part away. That's what the settlement that was agreed to called for.
Please.
Hi, Jen McNally, Ferndale Road. And I guess if you stand up here long enough, your questions get asked, or then you get new questions you want to ask, right? Thank you for all your hard work on this. I know it's been a big project, and people have dedicated hours upon hours, from the employees of the township and to all the elected officials. So thank you. I appreciate your time and your energies on this. So a lot of my questions have already been answered by people who came before me, and by some of the discussions up here, but I have new questions in my mind. And what just got brought up here is that this settlement's been going on for a long time, right? We said over the course of how many years and years. When we were discussing the settlement, was there any sort of obligation during the time of the settlement to start considering where we would put this? Were the people who we were negotiating the settlement with, did they have an expectation that we were working on this behind the scenes while we were talking to them? Because all of a sudden now, we have this mad dash to get this done, but we had all this time, what you just alluded to, we've been working on this for a long time. During the settlement time of the 3 years, were we supposed to have been working on where to put this? Just out of curiosity.
We signed a settlement in December of 2018.
Right.
And the judge approved it in February of 2019.
Right.
And it was unusual compared to most settlements in that it did not have a site included. It basically had a line in it on a site or sites to be named later for this 74-unit component of the 200-unit obligation. Just to recap, we extended the affordability controls on the units down in Vernon Grove, which gave us 74 units with no new traffic, no new kids in the school system, and at a price that was negotiated and acceptable to them and to us. So that was a extremely satisfactory solution.
Right. So when we started negotiating, we said the negotiation took a 3-year period of time, right? Were there any expectations on the other side of who we were negotiating with that we would have been working on along the way? Like, is there any sort of,
we
process?
got another 24 units, or we will get another 24 units through the construction that goes along with the Dixie-Dale developer. So those were part of the 200 obligation. The site or sites to be named later was not contained in that original settlement because we were in foreclosure proceedings on the property on River Road. And the way foreclosure proceedings make their way through the courts very, very slowly, is that it's a laborious process, and then even after it's settled, the former owner does have an extended period of time to step back in if they get financing and take back ownership of the property even after the ownership has passed to the new owner. So there was a lengthy period of time there where we were up in the air. That we were supposed to have nailed that down by July. When it got to July and we finally had access to the land and could go on it with a potential developer, and they gave us some conceptual idea of what 74 units might look like on that property, because of the steep slopes, because of the limitations on it, it was not an acceptable concept. It was too tall, too close to the road. It was not Chatham Township. And we had to start all over again. Our attorney went back to the judge, asked for an extension, and we got it. We asked for several extensions as we looked for alternative sites. And that takes us to where we are now. So yes, we have been looking at sites. Yes, the judge has been expecting us to come up with sites. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was sort of my new question from standing up here. But I guess out of my own curiosity too, 'cause I know I've got a time limit, the costs that we're incurring, we have appraisers, we have extra time, we have engineers, we have lawyers. Do we have a budget where this is coming out of? Where are we paying for all this from? We've got to be running up the bills hour by hour as we're here till 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure. It's part of it, right? How as a township, we've got litigation now, where do we get the money to pay for this?
We are paying for it out of our tax bill. This has been a consistent request for more data, more factual basis to base the best possible decision on, and we are responding to that. But there is a cost that goes with that.
Do we have money in our budget for things like this, or this is something that, Yeah,
There's a difference between having money in the bank and having money in the budget.
Well,
Because when you have money in the budget, that means that you've earmarked certain things and the box is
for
full.
miscellaneous, right? Is this a miscellaneous?
Well,
right?
it sounds a little bit nebulous. In fact, it is, but there's always a bucket of money
Right.
where you can draw for emergency purposes. So I don't know whether this comes as an emergency or not, but
No,
I'm just curious.
if I may,
thank you, Bob.
in the temporary budget, we have placed funds for litigations and funds for, to complete our COA, looking at what our obligation is. The funds are not infinite, and when we prepare and adopt our 2020 operating budget, there will, there is lines in there for matters of litigation. There's lines in there for COA. So you will see what the cost is. But in our temporary budget, we do have funds available.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my last thing, what I really came up here to say is that I live over in Rolling Hill by Southern Boulevard, and I've sat through a lot of township meetings. I probably come to the meetings a lot. In fact, somebody's in my seat right now that I usually sit in. And there's usually, quite a number of people here depending on the topic. But we came to all these meetings. We've listened to everybody as neighbors. And living over in Rolling Hill, I came to all these meetings in the fall. We talked about affordable housing. 24 units were decided on. It was very amicable. Nobody from my neighborhood showed up. I don't even know if people don't know or if it doesn't really factor on their radar. People were here. It was going to get done. It was something that had to happen. It was something that's part of the settlement. It was going to happen. We were going to work on it as a town and sort of welcome us in. So the last few meetings of the year, going into December and into the end of the year, to come to the meetings here and hear what people had to say about here and there and how this, and I've read a lot of emails, we should be pitting neighbors against neighbors. And when I sit here and listen to this, or I see this presentation that says, we can put these here, put this here. This isn't a welcoming thing for neighbors to be talking to neighbors sometimes like this. And I think, how are we going to welcome people into our community, right? How are we going to welcome people into our community if this is how we talk to each other? I've seen the emails, Rolling Hill is coming over. Well, yeah, we had every right to be here tonight. The people came here. We haven't gotten lawyers. We haven't sued. We've talked about it casually as neighbors, but I hear Rolling Hill, Rolling Hill. Nobody had a problem with 24 units, which was 1/3 of what the number would have been. And, all of a sudden, we come in about 60. And if you want the police station to move so badly over here, do you know that there's a shooting range that might come with it? So maybe on Sunday morning when I sit in my house on Ferndale Road, maybe you can now listen to the shooting range that would have backed up to the affordable housing anyway, which I thought was a bad idea, but it got moved ahead. So if you want the police station over here so badly, maybe you should investigate the shooting range that probably comes along with it. Okay, so, but anyway, but coming in here as a neighbor, we talk to our kids about bullying, we talk to our kids about how we relate to each other. Yeah.
Yes,
But-
okay. Address the
Oh,
township
sorry,
committee, please.
sorry.
And
But-
how are we doing time-wise?
But we come here as neighbors, and we come here to get along, and the way I think that we need to treat each other is how we want our kids to treat kids at school. And we come in here, oh, this or that, or here or there, or neighbor versus neighbor. We're one community. We're one community that's going to welcome a new community of people in here. And I really hope that moving forward, we can work together and integrate this into the fabric of our town. We have a beautiful community, and the ability to share this with people coming into our town, I hope would be there. I know you guys are working hard. Everybody here is putting forth their best effort, but we can't start pitting neighborhood against neighborhood. That's what I like to say.
Thank you.
I'm not looking at anybody. I'm looking at this huge crowd of people. Yeah, so-
Thank you.
David Workman, 19 Susan Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody, or thank the committee for whatever they did to reduce the number of units that we were asked to satisfy. And I understand that you probably can't talk about a lot of it, but somebody mentioned a name on the lawsuit. I never knew that this ever existed. Is there anything at all that you can tell us about a lawsuit? It's all out of the blue. Without compromising yourself, is there anything?
I'm not a lawyer,
No,
so
if Albert can tell us,
don't
is there
want-
anything?
We just received.
I hear you loud and clear. You're as
so
shocked as everybody.
We haven't had the opportunity to go, Albert hasn't.
And somebody actually mentioned the name of, I guess, who started the lawsuit.
We will be putting it up on the website for everybody to see what it says. I mean, that's probably the best and most complete and accurate.
Could you tell us legally, what did the lawsuit ask or say?
Well, the lawsuit was filed, I believe, on December 26th. It was formally served on the Township Committee on January the 3rd. What I do whenever any lawsuit is filed against the municipality, I ask that it be referred to the insurance carrier for a coverage determination. And I do that because I don't want to incur unnecessary legal fees for the municipality. So other than reading it, I have not analyzed it, so it would be unfair for me to characterize it. But essentially, it is a challenge to this building being used for any affordable housing. But I'm waiting for the insurance carrier to make a determination, and then that'll depend whether or not I'm handling it or being co-counsel, or however the insurance company decides to handle it. If the insurance company declines coverage, then I will be handling it. So I haven't looked at it. The answer is not due until February the 7th, so it'll be on the website, and you can read it.
Okay. As everybody's heard me say before, everything comes down to timing, and we just don't have a lot, so whatever we can all do, and no solution is perfect. Nobody. And what this gentleman did is a step. He put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's not that I think anybody wants to put everything in one place. As I've said before, the most important things that my experience in affordable housing is transportation and amenities. You don't have very wide roads here. You have very, the traffic would be tough, but that doesn't mean you can't put anything here, as this gentleman was saying. It can be spread, but you need to have the transportation and the amenities. A couple of meetings ago, somebody had said something about being a good neighbor and stopping off and giving people lifts and getting them food. I have 2 little children. I barely have time to see them, and I am a good neighbor, and I give to many organizations, okay? If I can't give somebody a lift, it doesn't really make me a bad neighbor, and I felt that that was something which, it hurt me because I do try to be a good neighbor. So, I assume property can become municipally owned if you buy it, okay? So that's the simple way I know. And going back to what I've said and others have said, and what Michael really did a great job on, is this is not an insult to people who are brain surgeons, but this is not brain surgery. This is just math, and it's detail orientation. That's what real estate is, and thinking outside of the box. So to the extent everybody can do that, I think we all appreciate it. When somebody talked about giving away, Ms. Ness, I know you don't mean giving away, and I understand, but everything is just numbers at the end of the day. It's nothing else. There's no science or not that I feel there is that much science to this. It's just numbers. So we need a base case to work with here, the building, the improvements, things like that. And as I've asked before, probably a little too loud, appraisals. Are we getting one group giving us numbers? Are we getting multiple groups giving us numbers? And when you pay for something, you know, I understand something's not going to be given to us till the 24th, right? An appraisal, is that what somebody had said?
That's what I believe.
Okay. Is there any way to say, guys, you got to crunch that? We just need it sooner. That's all. We just need it sooner, please. You know, put another couple guys on the team and let's get it done. Okay, I was going to say, during those 6 years, did you put the load on anything else? But I guess you answered that before, that during those 6 years, a couple other developments absorbed some of what we would have had to be considering now. Is that correct?
Yes.
True. I don't think.
I mean, we're talking about the progress we made against our
Yes.
200-unit.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's exactly what I mean.
That's as I
Exactly
said,
what I mean.
yes.
Okay. And this is way out of the box, and I don't know if there's a way to achieve this, but affordable housing can be very profitable. There are all sorts of low-interest loans you get from the state, federal. There's every type of incentive to do this. I don't know, and maybe I would, can the town act as their own developer?
It probably.
I've never heard of it. I'm asking.
It probably can. I don't know the answer to that. But typically, municipalities don't make good developers.
I know.
It's government as opposed to a business. So I guess theoretically, the answer is yes, but practically no.
And would it be legal to do this on a land lease basis rather than giving the land?
There is a complication there, and that is the Prevailing Wage Act. In New Jersey, if you do work, construction work on municipally owned land, the New Jersey Prevailing Act is triggered. And that is one of the criticisms that municipalities face, is when they go out to bid for a public work, they're bound by the Prevailing Wage Act and the union rates.
Okay.
So if we're talking about costs, certainly if you're doing it on municipally owned, municipally leased land, that would be triggered. So the concept is the municipality divests itself of the property by contributing it to a developer that is now owned by the developer, and the developer is free to either follow the Prevailing Wage Act or not.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Too short, sorry. Jennifer Terone, 154 Myersville Road, right down the street. My question is short and sweet. I've lived here for 12 years. I've seen a lot of new houses be built just on this street alone. I have 2 small children. They go to St. Pat's. I drive them every morning when I'm not working, and I bring them home every afternoon. I'm sure you're aware of this, and I don't know when we're going to do a traffic study, but the traffic just to get my children to school in the morning is horrendous. And the traffic to get them home, and I know it's nobody's fault. We don't have sidewalks, and every house we're stopping for a bus. I'm not even going to get into it with the busing system for St. Pat's, but that's a whole nother issue, because my children have to cross Myersville Road, and my stop is Joanna and Susan. But again, a whole nother issue. Have we looked into any traffic studies yet or anything for if we do decide to go with this site? No. We're going to, I assume? Same thing with Southern?
I believe any project needs to go before the planning board, just the way Dixie Dale and Arbor Green did.
Okay.
And those involved, I mean, in both those cases, those were 4 to 6 month exercises of presenting experts on every topic, including traffic.
Okay, that's just my question. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Felice, 20 Candace Lane. I just wanted to come here and make a statement. Really, I don't have a lot of questions. It's more that I heard a gentleman earlier state that that the action that my wife and I filed on behalf of ourselves and over 100 other constituents that live around us recently was counterproductive, and I don't actually believe it was, because one, they they decided on something on November 14th that none of us were given the option to even comment on. 1. 2, we were blindsided by it. 3, it's in our neighborhood, so you know what? We should have the ability to comment on it. 4, if all the things that the town administrator
Sir,
just recently
Mr.
stated.
Felice?
Yeah.
This is a public comment portion to the Township Committee.
Okay, sorry. So 4,
Address
the
us.
things that, no problem. The things that your administrator just stated he's doing. I'm getting this valuation done. I'm getting, I'm getting cost estimates done. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You guys signed that settlement in 2018, December of 2018. And in November of 2019, you decided to just drop 65 units here. However, none of that was done. But now all of a sudden we can get it done between November and, the 24th of this month. Ridiculous. So, you know what, we filed the action because A, we have, if we didn't file it the day we filed it, the municipal law expired on the ability to even challenge you guys on it, right? So we didn't have that ability. And B, we have the right to just come here and state our opinions. And so, I understand that people say that, oh, well, maybe, the city has to pay some taxes to, negotiate with us. But it's not just me and my wife. It's me, 100 other people. I'm glad I didn't put their names on the lawsuit so that, their names weren't, thrown out like the Felices are bad people. But I'd be happy to talk to anybody about my opinions. And we've been trying to talk about our opinions, and nobody's, and finally we got this process going. So it's great that we got this process going. If you guys want to go back and say, the November 14th decision is now null and void, we're out, but you guys have not refused to do that. So if you won't do it, then the action has to continue. And that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to make it known to everybody that, A, it's not just me and my wife, but it's okay if it is. And that's fine too. We can take the heat. And that's why our names are on it. But it's absolutely absurd that anyone would think that we would just sit back and just say nothing because we weren't even included in the process. So you know what? We've got the process rolling. So you should thank this community for getting that process rolling because we came out and we were angry about it. And now there is a process. There should have been a process for the last year, guys. There should have been a process. And guys, when you say you're not just giving something away, you are. So just stop saying you're not giving something away. You have an asset here. It's worth something. Obviously, you don't know what it's worth, but the administrator is going to find out, which is great. And so when you find out, you'll know what you're giving away. And that's absurd to me. So I just wanted it on the record that I really don't care. Anybody can say that, that the Felices filed this lawsuit, and that's fine. But it's not just us. It's a lot of people, and I'm glad that their names are protected. Thank you.
Good evening. Mayor, members of the Township Committee, thank you so much for all your hard work on this. And I really appreciate all the Saturday morning meetings and all the dialogue. Oh, sorry, James D'Amato, 144 Myersville Road. I view this municipal building as a community resource in the sense that you've made it home as a municipal building. It's been used for various activities, senior activities, recreation activities, all of these different things. And in addition, it's been used as offices for the Board of Ed. My neighbor Chris Batoni mentioned that the schools are not able to accommodate kindergarten. You have some excess space here. I think this Township Committee should look into a cooperative arrangement with the Board of Education to try to use the space to its best and highest use. I know a little bit about school construction, as some of you may know, and municipal construction. I've been involved in that for 40 years. I've been in this business for 40 years. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that to build a new municipal facility, it will cost you $500 per square foot. To duplicate this building that you have right here, to build a new building this size as a school or whatever else you want to build it as, will cost you $25 million. The land and that's not including the land. Where else in the town would you find a piece of land like this that you could accommodate a use like this. I don't think it exists. If it does, I would be glad to see it. I would love for somebody to show me. But I just don't think it exists. And I think we're missing an opportunity here to use this building for its highest and best use, is to use it cooperatively with the Board of Ed and to try our best to make that as amenable to the Board of Ed as possible. I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they rented a couple of offices from us, but we charged them $70,000 or $80,000 a year in rent. That seems like not in the spirit of cooperation. It's going from one pocket to the other pocket. This state right now is in such an important, throughout the state, everybody is talking about shared services, that municipalities and governments and need to combine and just like you've done with the court and other municipal services. That it's important that you establish a relationship and maintain a relationship with the Board of Education. And, you know, one of the options was to move the police department here. I think that's, somebody mentioned that, but I think in my mind at least that's an excellent option. Because I think what happens there is the municipal building, this asset, is worth substantially more than the police department. The police department's built on a slab. It looks like a temporary structure, really, and it's old. But try to duplicate this building. Try to duplicate this mahogany millwork and the marble countertops and all of this. Just try to duplicate it. Berkeley Heights is building a new municipal building right now. It's $35 million. Okay, so it's going to cost you, and the swing is how much you're going to pay the developer on top of giving them the property, and how much it's going to cost you to build another municipal building. So that's really the cost analysis. The cost analysis is combining all of those things to try to determine what the true cost is to the taxpayers. I think that all of the people here that pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in taxes really deserve, you know, a careful analysis there. And I'm not sure that all of that was being, it certainly wasn't done for many months. I'm hopeful that it can be done going forward. I extended an offer to the mayor to get estimates on whatever you guys need, HVAC systems, windows, roof. I can get those estimates very quickly. All I need is access. So if you're at all inclined to entertain that, I could certainly help you out. Okay?
I just wanted to address something since I'm the liaison for the Board of Education. The Board of Education did rent out offices here for several years, and they are intimately familiar with this building. This building was actually part of a 2000 and, I'm dating myself, maybe 6 or 5 referendum where this building was looked at, as well as putting second levels on some of the schools when we were in a period of enrollment growth. This actually turned out to be the most expensive option, retrofitting and turning this back into a school. It was less expensive to build new, and it was less expensive to build second floors on schools. So, and then with them experiencing the building in the condition that it is now, they really don't want any part of it. So that's it. So this idea of kind of turning it back into a school, while certainly made a lot of sense when it was originally proposed back in 2005, I was like, well, that's an awesome idea. That was a school. And it was very surprising that it turned out to be the most expensive option. With regards to shared services, we obviously have a shared school district. And one of the reasons why, for the first time this year, as I understand it, and speaking with the board president, that we were able to offer, as a school district and a town, a subscription service for kindergarten was because of declining enrollment. So it freed up space at the various schools that wasn't existing there before. And enrollment varies, because my children went to Southern Boulevard. And Southern Boulevard, it can swell. We've had only one redistricting when I was, during my time here, and that was at a period of time when Southern Boulevard kind of went to capacity. And then some of the kids got shifted to Washington, and then some of the kids in the area got shifted to Milton, and it kind of gets shifted around here and there. And I think they're kind of at that point again with Southern Boulevard, but they're in a declining period with Washington and Milton. So they were able to, because the kindergarten classes have to have self-contained units. They have to have a bathroom in them, so there's certain requirements for those units to be able to be offered. And so this was a pilot program, and as part of that pilot program, it was not guaranteed that it was going to be offered in the next year, because nobody knows what the next year is going to bring in terms of enrollment. It would be great to have full-day kindergarten. I would have loved for full-day kindergarten 20 years ago. A lot of people who come from Hoboken and Jersey City are used to being in an Abbott district where that's paid for. And we don't have that luxury here. It's not paid for here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this building with relation to turning it back into a school, and that kind of relationship that we have ongoing with the Board of Ed. Open conversations, lots of talk about things back and forth. I just wanted to offer that perspective.
Mr. Mayor, may I just respond to one
Sure.
thing? Okay. I was not suggesting to turn the entire building back into a
Oh, no, I
school.
know you weren't. I'm just giving some historical.
So a portion of the building is probably all that's needed, 4 or 5 classrooms. You probably have 40,000 square feet of space here. 35, 40,000? Tell me, how much is it? 30?
30.
30,000, okay. And that's the 2 levels.
No, that's just on this floor. The senior center is 8,655 square feet.
Okay, so that's 40,000 approximately. Okay. So some of that, I think, could be allocated if the need arose. Rather than build a new structure, it would seem to me, okay, having built a couple of schools and a lot of other projects, that you could do it a much more cost-effective way, and save the taxpayers a great deal of money. And I'd be happy to help you with it if you are inclined to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I applaud Mr. D'Amato's civic mindedness. So if if we're getting some numbers, but if he can help, that would be great. I'd like to also point out that the borough of Wanacue recently built a new municipal building. They built a 28,000 square foot municipal building. It was about $9.2 million. It worked out to $325 per square foot for their building, and that included the furniture. So, you've got to watch the bid. You've got to watch what's coming in, and make sure you're getting the best value. So, yeah, there's a wide range, but we need to keep an eye on the bottom line.
Thank you. Okay, maybe if I could just address one other, and thank you for your comments and your offer. It's appreciated.
I'm sorry. There's people waiting.
I know, but
I'm sorry. Yeah, just the rental that you mentioned was correct, that we did charge the Board of Ed rent for this, but it amounted to less than half of the utilities to operate this building. So to ask a tenant that's really occupying half of the building to rent-free, but to shoulder half of the utility costs, we thought was a brotherly kind of a thing to do. So we certainly feel very pleased with our good relationship with the Board of Ed.
Laura?
Thank you.
Hi, Laura Mariano, 736 Fairmont Avenue. First of all, I just wanted to say hi to my new friends. I'm so excited for everybody that's has been elected. And I wanted to thank Mike and Doug for all the hard work that they've done over the last couple of months. I mean, just an incredible amount of work, and we all really owe a huge debt to them. That's community service at its best. I just wanted to speak from a neighborhood perspective. I think the shock to the system when everybody really just found out was, you know, how did this all, fall on us at the last minute, and nobody really knew what was going on. And from this neighborhood, and this is not about pitting neighborhoods, because I don't believe in that at all. But I think from this particular neighborhood, there are homes that are right around this building. I mean, they're literally in the backyard. I mean, Doug lives right on the corner. So the effect is huge. And for me, it's like, okay, so now these people are going to look out in their backyard, and it's going to be a 3-story apartment building in their backyard. And I don't think that's the way we can go. I just think that would be an awful thing to do to this neighborhood. Because, in Candace and Myersville, everybody looking down will just, have this big monstrosity of a building. If it does end up being here, I would love to see some sort of alternative 2-story horseshoe-type building, or something that's just more amenable to it, a nicer neighborhood kind of environment that would blend in well, whether it's here or over at the police station site, same sort of thing, not a massive, apartment building. And I think that would work for, for this neighborhood and for the people over by the police station. And the only reason that I had mentioned, I guess in emails also, that I thought that neighborhood over there is so commercialized already. You've got Chatham Hill Apartments. It's abutted by Noe Pond. There's Fairmont Country Club. It's just that corridor just lends itself to more commercial type, multifamily type housing, as opposed to here where there's nothing like that. No, there's just, and you're able to walk to the shopping centers. There's offices across the street. There's elderly home units that's there. There's a farm there. There's just so much going on that I feel like half the time you don't even know what's behind there. The DPW is there, the police station, the skate park. It could kind of get hidden somewhere in there. But here, if you have a 3-story apartment building literally in people's backyards, that was kind of a shock to the system. So I have faith that this will all work out really well. I'm always a very optimistic person. But I do hope that, we don't pit any neighborhoods against each other, and we can, figure out the best way to go about this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, Rich Ryan, 11 Rolling Hill Drive. And as someone who does live, I guess, right off of Southern Boulevard, I just wanted to make one comment in relation to some of the things that we just heard. While I completely understand the point of view that exists in this immediate area with a large obtrusive development coming right into their backyard, and I hear all the arguments about why more would fit naturally on Southern Boulevard, because that's where we already have so much multifamily housing, is a bit like when you got someone that's drowning, just throwing them more water because they're thirsty. Because right now, the Southern Boulevard corridor is overrun with development and traffic. I cannot make a left turn on the Southern Boulevard in the morning. And I know people say that there's traffic out here. Trust me, from a lot of the neighbors that we have in our area that used to live right in this immediate area and moved, all they do is complain about how much worse the traffic is. So, while I understand people here, don't want 65 units, no one wants 65 units, and I fully get that. And, Mr. Khan, who I believe left, was speaking earlier, and I just wanted to reiterate, one of the things that a lot of folks in our neighborhood definitely get the sense of is that there is an attitude, and I know a lot of people, when Mr. Khan was speaking before around me, were saying that's not true, that's not true. We do get a sense that there's a lot of folks in this area saying, just put it all on Southern, do whatever we can. I love the fact that there's a lot more people here now, and that there's a lot of folks from the Myersville area kind of getting involved in these conversations, because folks from Rolling Hill area have been here for 18 months, talking about affordable housing and trying to get involved in those conversations. So I welcome more people involved in the discussion, but I would love if someone could explain or reconcile for me the same people that were in the audience giving wild applause to the display showing how 60 units could go on Southern Boulevard were also the same ones saying that, oh, we don't oppose a two-site or multi-site solution. We want a multi-site solution, because what I keep hearing and seeing in a lot of the emails that fly around town in the email list, Chatham Housing Affordable Interest Group, seems to be, put it all there, put it all there. I definitely do recognize that there are, I think, some very reasonable voices. I have a ton of respect for the work that Mr. Owen has done. I give a heck of a lot of credit to Mr. Felice, who came in here and stood up and had the courage to stand up here and defend his actions and address what he's done. So I give him a lot of credit for that. So I just want to encourage more open dialogue. And again, let's not make this neighborhood versus neighborhood. Just two last quick things. One, a lot of people here are going to disagree with this, but when it comes to moving the police station and relocating the police station, I just hope that the committee would think and study very long and hard before you make that decision, should it come to that, what would truly be the impact of response time, not in a normal day-to-day type circumstance, but in a true emergency situation where, God forbid, it's something at one of the schools, a church in town that requires a true all-hands-on-deck type of response from the police department, including folks that would normally not leave the station, special equipment that might be at the station, and just really hope that that would be looked at long and hard. Because as a father of two young kids, school safety is absolutely one of my number one concerns in this day and age, unfortunately. Last, I was hoping that this was addressed at the December meeting, but I still heard a lot of talk today before this meeting started about how the builder's remedy lawsuit is nothing but fear-mongering and, and nonsense, effectively. And I really hope the committee doesn't take that point of view. I thought Mr. Cruz had effectively, addressed this when some people I thought had a very naive misconception of what a builder's remedy lawsuit can accomplish at the last meeting, when he explained that it really does take the zoning power out of the hands of the township. I don't know if there's anything more after I'm done, if you can add on that, but it definitely seems to me that there's still a strong belief around here from a lot of folks that the township does remain in full control of zoning, more or less, in the event of a builder's remedy lawsuit. So I would love to hear, in your expert opinion, if you agree with that or not. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you from the Township Committee's point of view that there is nobody here that wants to see that happen. That the prospect of losing control of the community's zoning is something that none of us here want. Albert just this past week has shared a legal decision with us where that actually did happen to another town. So it does happen, and we need to move forward and find the best solution so it does not happen here.
Hi, I'm Jean Earle at 37 Rose Terrace. First and foremost, I just really want to thank our town council people, old ones and new ones, because I know this has been a difficult topic, and we wouldn't be dealing with trying to find solutions if historically it had not been a difficult topic. So I just want to share one myopic view that I have. I'm not only a township resident, I am the chief financial officer of ECLC of New Jersey. We serve hundreds of young children and adults with special needs. And I'm not sure, I know the township has kind of been in a unique position because of some of the things that people talked about, the accessibility to normal community services. But I hope that we have a kind of a global view of who might use this housing, because in our experience, because our family includes a special needs person, we have been involved with the Supportive Housing Association and other groups that deal with these kinds of issues. And I just want to point out a couple of things. One of the other groups that my family deals with are seniors and serving seniors. Seniors need the same accessibility as a lot of our young adults with special needs. So transportation is an issue. And Access Link, the New Jersey systems, the public systems, service 3/4 of a mile from bus lines. And so, that really limits some of the, I think we need to think about transportation. But I did want to assure people that in most of the very creative, and there are some absolutely beautiful affordable housing projects. There's a new one with supported apartments going into the Florham Park area by the Jets, where things are really included in other areas, and they're not just big pockets of housing somewhere. But most of our special needs people do not have children, will not have children or families like most of us. They also don't drive for the most part. So I wanted to encourage, if it's all possible, thinking about projects that would include seniors and special needs people. So that's my push. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ted Godfrey, 21 Evergreen Road. So I'm just looking over a couple of things. Are they saying that this would be 3 stories if you build here?
A proposal to get 65 units here would be
Okay,
3 stories.
okay. So effectively, given the topography here, it would be 4 stories that would be looming over us down where I live. They talked about the runoff and all. I mean, I think over at the police station where you could potentially build, obviously you could use permeated paving there so that the water got absorbed into, that would have less of a runoff effect. Wondered if you guys did I assume you did a LOI, letter of interpretation. Did you go for an averaging plan so that you give up some property in one place where you're not necessarily going to be building, but you get to put actually less than 75 feet as your buffer? I know I did that, so that was just a question. I'm assuming that these expenses are going to be amortized on a bonding issue, right? If you look at Mountain View, if there's a car parked on the road, 2 cars cannot, you have to stop. It's too narrow. It's not a normal, road that's built in, I don't know what the width is, but it's not the norm. Yeah. So, you're going to have a problem with the traffic on there. And what was this about the shooting range? So this means we'd have a shooting range here? I'd like to comment on that, but I'm just trying to run through these things, and then you guys can comment. Okay, so when you're talking about the cost per unit of these different places you locate, I think you also have to analyze the potential depreciation of the values in the different neighborhoods. And I know that the people in Rolling Hill were saying, "Oh, you're going to build, over here," but they're down the road. I think a council person I won't mention said, "Oh, it's the residents in that area." If you look at where the police station is, that's not having the same impact on areas like Rolling Hill as putting a big building here would on the residential areas of Mountain View, Evergreen, Myersville, et cetera, because it is more of a commercial area already. So again, how much is my property going to go down in value because you build this big building here? I think you should take advantage. I think it was Mr. Amato. I would hope you, he sounds like he's an expert and can help with the cost analysis and all. Where would the municipal building be built if you, had to get rid of here? So that was the other. And the last thing was, does it have to be rentals here versus low-income ownership, where when they have an equity interest, they take care of the properties better, and I think it would less impact our property values because you have people that are invested in the community versus just low-income renters. Because a lot of the things that people have talked about in other towns, those are low-income ownership interests, aren't they? Okay, so now I'm all ears.
I'm not sure if I understood your question about the pistol range, but there is a pistol range behind our existing police department. And in fact, it's behind the DPW, which is behind the police department. There's been no conversation about moving it. It is not very movable. So that, if that was a concern of that moving over here, I don't think that that's a significant concern. I'd hark back to Gene Earle's comment about the kind of people who do live in assisted affordable housing. Is that I think that we do need to remember that I heard somebody express it this way: is that in a room full of people, probably everybody here knows somebody who would qualify for affordable housing. Whether it's a young adult starting out in life who needs a place to live, whether it's a senior citizen, whether it's somebody with special needs, somebody who's just, not a executive material, but who's got themselves a great job but needs a place to live nearby. I think that any town benefits from that kind of a mix of population. And, I think that while we're all trying to wrestle with the site, I think that we should be able to put away the serious concerns about the people who are going to live there. I think we all know those kind of people. And, I don't think that that's what you said, but I mean, I just wanted to take that as a
The key
jumping off
nuance was I was saying low-income ownership housing versus rental, because if you're not analyzing it from there's more of an investment on their part in the community, in taking care of a property than a renter. I'm a landlord. I know how people that are renters just don't put the same interest into the building as somebody that actually has their own money involved in it. So fine, if we're subsidizing them, but why can't we have home ownership for those people that are coming in? We're just instead of the thing being 200,000 per unit. What's that?
That was the settlement.
We do have a major component of our affordable housing is already owner-occupied.
Chatham, right,
The Vernon Grove and the
Right,
Chatham Glen. The remainder of it, according to the language of our settlement, needs to be rental housing. It turns over quicker, it benefits more people, and you're absolutely correct. Any rental housing needs to be carefully supervised, but I think that we do have some excellent rental housing in the town right now, whether it's Chatham Hill, whether it's Chatham Glen, whether it's Cardinal Hill. I mean, all of those are rental units, and their owners take a lot of pride in making sure that their occupants do a good job. So we would have to do the same, and have to demand that the people who ran them for us did the same job for us.
And then the comment about the road here.
A good point, fair point.
And speaking to Mr. Amato, really, with all the money that we pay in our property taxes, you guys really should be analyzing these costs and cost benefits in the different scenarios. And I'm shocked that hasn't been done accurately up to this point. Sorry for the admonishment. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Carol Mott, 49 Myersville. I guess my question, I've had this along and I've kind of held back from asking because, I kind of apologize for being ignorant in the subject matter. I just, we're not the first to have to deal with affordable housing. And I think that the difficult part for me is throughout this whole process, when I found out on a December day that potentially 65 units could be outside our home, my initial reaction was not those people or any, no, it was more about like, well, what does this mean for our community? What does that mean for the town? What does that mean for the school? And are there not any case studies that we can learn from other towns who've implemented this as well? Because what's extremely unsettling, for I assume you folks as well, is that you're going to have 24 units. There's going to be construction. What does that mean for my everyday? And all these answers have never been, all these questions haven't been answered financially, what it means for the traffic, what it means for the schools, what it means for our seniors, what it means, and granted, I understand that there's a lot of what ifs, right? You could build a house and something goes wrong and it's going to take a lot more and you end up paying. I understand that aspect of it. What's very odd to me is that we're not the first to do this, yet it does feel like we're the first to do this. Like I walk in and it's this site. No, it's not going to be that site. And we haven't done a study on that yet. And we haven't done a study on this yet. And, we're just kind of sitting back like, fingers crossed, I hope that works, and I know you guys do a lot to ensure that we feel more secure as residents, but I will say me personally, maybe I'm just ignorant in the subject matter. I don't quite grasp that yet, which doesn't make me feel comfortable when I go to sleep at night feeling like we have a plan and we could all as a community, all of Chatham Township rally behind it. I know it's not all in your hands, so I'm not trying to, sound like, give me the answer, Mayor Kelly today. But I feel like there should be a little bit more of a structure to this.
Good point. And I think with a lot of our consultants out there doing work for us right now, we'll have more answers at the end of the month. But I think I can shed some light on some of the things that you raised. And Karen and I, this past year, have sat on the planning board. And they held lengthy hearings into the affordable housing component that's going to be located between the police department and the skate park. Okay, 24 units. And they had a caravan of experts testify under oath before the planning board. And as normal, I mean, that was a project that some people were interested, other people, it wasn't part of their lives and they didn't plug into it. But I can summarize some of that because some of the earlier questions pertain to the same thing. Housing, parking, yes, the normal percentage is 2 parking spaces per unit. There is a lower percentage for affordable housing of 1.5 parking spaces per unit based on the science, based on the studies that, just as you say, that we are not the first ones that have to deal with this. They've looked at it and said typically an affordable housing development generates fewer cars. As far as the traffic goes, they had traffic experts project what the traffic impact would be on a peak hours. And again, a lot of their testimony was based on formulas and regional and national experience. But what really, I think, gave Chatham Township Planning Board a unique perspective is that we already have a 72-unit affordable housing development at Vernon Grove and Chatham Glen. And we know from firsthand experience how much traffic that generates and how much parking that requires. So we could bang that experience up against the formulas and have a double check on what they were saying. Yeah. Same thing with the traffic component. Well, that's the market rates over the Dixie-Dale.
I guess my follow-up question to that, I'm so sorry.
I just wanted to say, we also had the benefit of having the rental experience. So it's not affordable housing rental, but we have a whole lot of rentals at Cardinal Hill. We have a whole lot of rentals at Chatham Hill. And those are the numbers that we worked with the school district. So in order to do the analysis of how many kids were going to be added in the school system for the affordable housing, we worked with the school district to get those numbers of the kids who came out of Roseville, because that's a direct comparable to what's being built on Dixie-Dale. And then the kids that came out of, that are in the apartments currently, to come up with a number of 50. So we did do that analysis in conjunction with the school district, and worked with them to something that, to the point where they were comfortable with that analysis.
Yeah, so I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm understanding is you go through the process of finding a site, and then in retrospect with the planning board, kind of work, it almost feels a little backward, right? You're working now to figure out, is it gonna work? How about if it doesn't work? Like, do we have a plan B of then say, now we just invested in this site, but it's not gonna work, so now we have to go look for another site, and that just stays status quo? Because I know from having a home, I've had to do things with the zoning board in my previous area, and I was with them for a while, and I'm still kind of dealing with it, and that's out of my pocket. So I guess that's as a resident, I want to understand, maybe those 24 units in Skate Park, it doesn't work. Then what do we do there? We're now looking for another area? Is that how that works?
That's been approved. That's gone through the planning board process.
Okay.
And that received approval in December.
Yes.
So that's gone through that whole process. So there has to be an educated approach to identifying the site. There's certain things that, to your point, it has to have. It has to make sense financially. It has to make sense in terms of how we're going to distribute the housing. One of the things that we learned in working with all the developers this summer, in looking at the different sites and trying to have them come in and give us a reasonable estimate, is that there is a sweet spot where it becomes profitable for a developer to do affordable housing, because they have to build it, they have to finance it, they have to pay off the cost of the building of it, and they're getting a rent that's lower than market rate. And that number for those units is between 50 to 70 units, with the maximal number being 70 units. So it is challenging. Somebody mentioned rocket science. It's not necessarily rocket science, but it's it's a little it's trying to figure out. And you rightly mentioned also money. Yeah, if we throw a lot of money at things, we can build 10-unit homes. We can buy homes and convert them, and and we can spend 28, 29, 30 million dollars, or we can spend X amount of dollars to do a kind of all the most. What I think is going to turn out to be the least expensive option is to do them all in one building. That's not the option that everybody wants. So then, if we look at that, and we look at putting it in multiple spots, then that's the exercise that we have to go through, and look at it in terms of the costs, and look at it in terms of the placement, and all those different things. And that's something that we went through this summer with the different developers, and now that's something that we're going through again with a different look to it now.
Absolutely. And last comment I want to make, as a resident of this area, I can't speak for all, but for myself in general, I don't want to walk around feeling like people are saying, that the people there don't want these types of people. I think what you saw with the uproar was, being a new resident to Chatham, I've only lived here for about a year, is that I expected a bit of transparency, and maybe just like, understanding of the process. Like, I think through every session we've learned a bit more, and it's been, much more collaborative, and there's great ideas that have come up. Not the way it felt the first time, and I think we've all recognized that. I don't think I'm saying anything that's a secret, and just to say that, because I don't want it to, my children go to school here, and they all talk, and I don't want to feel like those people over there don't want. That's not the case. I think the uproar was, we don't understand what's going on, and you're telling us we have to be okay with it. And I think that's where everybody now is questioning and wanting numbers and everything else, so that we feel comfortable in the decision that's made. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that. I just felt like I wanted to go on the record as saying that, because that's important to me and the way that I raised my children. And one of the things I really love about our community, coming here, everybody was very welcoming. And I don't think it's an us versus them. We're Warden Township who's looking for like the well-being, because it impacts us all at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, good evening. John Stricko, 156 Noe Avenue. This seems to have all come to a head around the holidays, and a lot of us haven't had a chance to get our arms around it yet. I know it's been in planning for a long time, but just looking at it now, the most concern I've seen in the room here is any site accommodating a large number of units. It seems like there's an inclusive air here, that everybody is all right with a certain amount of units going in one area. I know it is a more expensive solution to go with multiple sites, but it really does provide a better opportunity for not only the less impact on each of the neighborhoods, but for better assimilation of the people who would be coming in. And that's something that really, that's really something that we have to look at with this as well. I mean, it seems like people brought the point up, but I just wanted to hammer it home. 65 units, 3-story things don't seem to be good for anyone. And we really have to make sure we try to accommodate both those people who are coming in and the people who have been long-term residents here. Also had a concern with moving the police services from where they are. There was a point made about how much is going on Southern Boulevard over there, and yeah, it could be hidden over there. Well, there is a lot going on over there right now, and the police are in a very good position right now to help manage it. And having them out here and having the station out here does limit that ability to have them able to address emergencies in the area where it has the highest concentration of businesses and users. So,
Okay.
just a couple observations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Miller, Green Village. I'd like to welcome the new committee members. And I just wanted to say a couple things. One is, you know, the difference between here and multiple sightings and all that. Look at a different perspective. If a builder came in prior to the whole affordable housing issue and said to you, we want to put a 3-story apartment building with 65 units here, do you think our planning board would have approved that? Okay, I don't. I honestly don't. And also, one thing that bothers me tremendously, being a resident of Chatham Township, Green Village, for my whole life, and many people, my family, long time before that, I don't think there's one person in this room or one person in this town that is concerned about the type of person who may be coming here. I don't think one. I think what we're worried about is where it's going, how it's going there, and what type of units. I don't think it has anything to do with people. And I think that notion just needs to be thrown out. It's how to place a building and how to site multiple units somewhere throughout our town. And that's it. I think we should look at it as a simple apartment building. That's it. I don't know who's going to move in next door to me tomorrow, and I personally don't care. Okay? And I don't think anybody here thinks that way about their neighbors. So, with all that being said, I think that what you said, Mr. Kelly, it was very true. You know, we could have disabled and we could have people with different needs, as we might have anywhere throughout the town. Access to anything that any special needs person would need here, okay, in possibly large group numbers on Myersville Road, isn't going to help them get anywhere, do anything. Limited parking spots are going to give them less access to vehicles, okay? Because you're going to give, I think down on Southern Boulevard, what were we saying, one spot per unit, is that correct? 1.5, good. So everyone's going to have 1.5 cars. That's real good, you know? I'm sure the same formula would be up here in some kind of, something, because we have limited parking. That car is going to be to Possibly the person who's going to work. You know, maybe they have kids. What do they have access to within walking distance here? Nothing. Zero. Okay? No anything. We talk about, you know, connectivity many, many times. Connectivity, safe streets to schools, sidewalks from Shumpike, sidewalks from Southern Boulevard, sidewalks everywhere, so that we can get to our main facilities, so that we can get to our shopping areas. There's none of that here. None of that. So if we're looking out for our neighbors, and we're looking out to help people out, if we're looking to be the welcoming community that Chatham Township is, putting affordable here for people who are in need isn't very bright. Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Maloney, 15 Evergreen Road. So I just want to ask, what's a done deal? I know, Tracy, you just said that the was a skate park, there was what, 22 units there?
24.
24. So what else is a done deal? Is that a done deal?
Yes.
So you can't increase that at all?
Well, there's a potential to look at with the setback, with the additional setback and the skate park pad that's there, as well as whether we move the police building or not, and that's some of the different scenarios that we're looking at.
Okay.
But the one thing, Mike, that's been approved is the 24 units. That building, if you want to go online, you'll be able to see the FAQs, you'll be able to see the agreement, and it's a kind of a long building that steps down in the middle of the property that was designed when the constraints were still there.
Okay.
And the police building was still there.
Right. So through listening through the 4 or 5 meetings that I've been to, there's been a lot of people that have come up, like Doug, D'Amato or Amato, I don't know if I have his name correctly. Right. There's a lot of people here in town that have experience, resources, talent, and I think we should tap into that, because these are our vested neighbors, they're our vested town people. They could do a checks and balances on the engineers, they can do a checks and balance on the architects and planners, and I think it just helps well round everything out. It brings the community together because we live here, right? We have a vested interest. We want to make this work, but we want to make it work for everybody. And I think part of the thing that I felt bad with was it was just a surprise in November. So the transparency wasn't there. Mr. Kelly, I think in the November meeting or December, you said there was going to be more transparency. So I think by engaging our neighbors that have the engineering, they have the professional skills, they would definitely suit the administration better in helping find a place. As far as putting a new municipal building, what site would that have been proposed? Where's the address for that new municipal building?
The option that was, that would involve moving the municipal building would envision a new municipal building, police department building, a combined facility in the vicinity of where the existing police department is now.
Okay. So as a retired first responder, I did volunteer work for 8 years in Nutley. As running emergency rescue, your building needs to be centrally located. The police department really doesn't. The police are on the road every day, every hour. When they change shifts, there's always cars on the road. So moving the police department here is not a bad idea because they're on the road all the time. An ambulance and a fire truck, that needs to be centrally located so that you have the response time. But to move the PD here is not a bad deal. You own the building here. You have the senior center here. Like this is a building that can be easily repurposed to suit its needs for the township. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a mention that we This has been terrific tonight, actually. And before you get to say your comment, we will have your comment. Mike, I think we're on your 20th email. All really helpful. It's wonderful that you did a diorama, that you put the buildings together. We've gotten lots of great suggestions. We've read your stuff, Mike. We read your spreadsheet. You've all been coming, many of you have been coming in and speaking with Bob or coming to the coffee with the committeemen. Mike has been, I have 2 college-age kids, so I couldn't make some of them, but they've been wonderful to do. And we hope to continue this because this has been a really wonderful exercise to have not the animosity that has been at some of the other meetings. It's much more productive when we have discussions back and forth and we can talk back and forth about the different ideas and we value these kinds of things. To that end, though, I don't think that we're going to be able to continue coffee with the committeemen.
Yeah, we're going to take a hiatus on that.
Unfortunately, because of the pending litigation, we won't be able to do that anymore. I know, Mike, and you're not going to. We're just going to have to show up. We're going to have to get your coffee delivered somehow. But there is. I just wanted to set that expectation up because it has been really well attended, and we have really enjoyed doing that. But we won't be able to continue that. We'll be able to continue discussing it in the public forum and discussing like we're doing tonight, but we won't be able to continue that.
Patricia Wells, 184 Southern Boulevard. I've lived next to Southern Boulevard School for 50 years, arriving when it was still sort of a country road and watching it become more and more and more of a throughway. It's now a main artery, as is Shunpike, as is Fairmount, and now that everybody's figured out how to get through the Great Swamp, Myersville Road is turning into the same thing. Whatever we do, there is more traffic to come. So I think the wisest thing to do is to spread this housing around if you possibly can. Spread the increased traffic so that nobody is impacted over everybody else. And I think it can be done. So that would be my recommendation. Spread it around if you possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Do I get a second shot? Pardon?
Mike, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to get to the second half of my presentation, which has to do with the willingness to pay perhaps higher prices than you had previously considered for new properties. I'm glad to hear you say you're willing to consider new properties, but when we've discussed it in the past, it's always been in the context of you don't want to overpay, you want to pay fair market value. Now, the fair market value is set by the current zoning of a property. If a property is zoned for low density, it has lower value than if you rezone it for 12 units per acre, okay? So as soon as you take control of the property, you rezone it, it would imply it has greater value. So properties for affordable housing, in my view, have a greater value than they do for low-density development. And so I don't think that the fair market value of the property as it is the limit. I think you should say the limit is the fair market value that it would have if it was developed at a higher density. Now that's really too much to pay, though. You would never buy property in competition with a developer. So what is the limit to which you should pay for a property? So I now go back to my cost per unit concept. If you have a property, and for example, I'm thinking of a property of 1.3 acres, that has a potential for saying 12, and it's very low density zoning, if it has a potential for 12 units, I would say that given that you're paying $75 $75,000 per unit, for example, at the subsidy at the municipal building, you ought to be able to pay $75,000 per unit to develop that property. And so 12 units, I think that would be $900,000. That may be well above what a lot with low-density zoning would command. Now, if you get close to Hickory Square, I'm very disappointed that the current plan doesn't include any development near Hickory Square, because for people who don't have their own transportation, I think it would be highly desirable to have some units within easy walk of
We have 24 units there.
3/4 of a mile from the police station to ShopRite. 3/4 of a mile. That's not what I call. And then if they want to go to the train station, if you live at near Hickory Square, it's a mile to the train station. It'd be 1 3/4 miles to the train station. So I would say that given the fact that it's desirable to have housing for people who don't have transportation, you might pay a premium for a development in that immediate area. You might pay $100,000 per unit, which would be, a 1.2 million. Now, I hear you, you're shaking your head.
No, shaking it about the doors at the city.
Oh. So the concept I'm trying to get across is that if you limit yourself to just fair market value of properties as they are, you're limiting yourself, I think, inappropriately.
Mike, I think that's an excellent point. And I will share with you that our engineer is working along the same strategy when he's presenting us with spreadsheets and what the cost per unit would be on various sites. I mean, you're both thinking the same way.
Okay, great. So that's really the point I wanted to make, and I guess it probably, I had talked to Bob Hoffman this morning, and I would just like to ask Albert, is it not true that if we were to become proactive in acquiring property now, that we would probably be able, and if you had an accelerated process for getting it through the planning board, if they were willing to hold extra meetings, instead of waiting a month, and the township committee is holding regular meetings, that it would be possible to buy a new property in the next, say, month and still have it be available for inclusion in the plan in a mid-April timeframe. Is that something that you feel is possible? Yeah, did you understand, or was I too garbled? Under the assumption that the seller is quite willing to accelerate the acquisition of the property, is there a legal limit?
Yeah, Mike, that's pretty hypothetical. I mean, I think you yourself just put a finger on one of the variables of just the time it takes to close on a property normally. I think that there are a lot of aspects to that question that need to be seriously looked at. I mean, taking a property off the tax rolls, for one. If it's a vibrant commercial property, there's a significant loss in taxes to take it off. If it's not a willing seller.
Well, then you're dead. Yeah, I assume a willing seller. But let me say this: you're complete.
I would assume a willing seller. We visited some commercial properties.
Final question, Mike, because your time expired, and
they weren't so willing.
Well, can I make the comment that you're talking about buying other properties to support development? If you can buy other properties, why can't you buy additional properties that are primary for affordable housing?
Good thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment. First, I just wanted to thank the residents. This is the process that should have been happening all along, and you've contributed tremendously to what's going on behind the scenes. What you're saying is people are listening to it, and there's a lot of work that's being done. couple of questions. In terms of the community expertise, people have been very gracious with their time and with their expertise. It's been very valuable for me. People have contacted me, giving me their input. Developers who, develop in other communities, civil engineers. Anyway, so there's a lot of expertise, and people have been gracious with their time. The question I have is there any objection or any reason why we wouldn't have working sessions with experts in the community, brainstorming sessions in the interim? Is there?
We have asked that. We've been waiting for that.
We've been having those every Saturday under a certain definition of it. I mean, it's been an open house at over here at the conference room for 4 or 5.
Does that become a problem? I mean, when Mr. Pitney brings in his designs, his ideas, I think that's great. If there's a series of experts that come in and if there's brainstorming sessions around.
I know Bob has devoted a significant amount of his time to talking with individuals who have approached him to try to have input into the process. So I hate to offer that to everybody because I mean it's already being very actively pursued. But certainly, I think all of us. I mean, I am glad to hear that people are sharing with you because they certainly are sharing. I think with all of us individually. The problem with a formal advisory committee, which was an early suggestion, is that it would be very difficult to create a advisory committee that was balanced geographically and experientially and credentials that would really present us with solid, usable data. The people who approached us initially about setting up an advisory committee were the people who reacted initially to the discussion of this site. So it was heavily weighted toward neighbors of this site, and it would not have held up as any kind of a valuable exercise for people around the town if they were going to question, why are you now talking about my site? So we, instead of advancing with a formal advisory committee, we extended an invitation to people individually to please come to these meetings, come to the Saturday sessions, and please share your perspective and try to get that input that way.
Can I put my 2 cents into
You know
that?
what? There was just a
Oh,
gentleman
I'm
who was
sorry.
behind you who hasn't spoken first.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, actually, Mark Lois, Gates Avenue in Chatham Township. I think that was really appropriate because that's what I wanted to talk about. And I think people have a weight that they want to carry. That's what we're all built for if you want to be productive. And we have a lot of experts. And I don't think it really matters what part of the town you're from or whether or not your input's even valid. Because if it's a competition of ideas, if it's a competition of output, that's good. And you have hired people, hired guns, and then you have owners who maybe have some great creative ingenuity that they want to bring to it. But we don't need to vet every person in the town, what their motivations might be, whether or not they're balancing where they live geographically. It doesn't matter. They have ideas. And if there's a forum where they can present ideas, they can present solutions, and then you can parse through that with the help of your experts, I think that can only help. So we can't have citizens volunteer to be representatives, which you've been elected to be. That's through our process. But we can have their ideas compete against each other. So it's a different concept. And I think, in that aim, there's a lot of talent, and the people are very time constrained. So if you ask people, if you make a call when you have a problem, if you make a call for experts, people will weigh in, but they have to be able to do it in a discreet way. And what you do, and thank you so much to the Township Committee, because it involves enormous number of hours, which I'm adding to, and I apologize for that, but it's something that not everyone can commit to. But discreet engagement with citizens is something that really can bring out like the vibrance of the town and just a lot of positive things. So I would encourage you in that. And then to that end, the last time I spoke on this mic, I asked about questions about improving our access to the township train line, to creating some type of a parking situation where we can have a jitney bus, or where in some way we can have better access to the train line, because I had sold a property in the last year, and that was an issue that came up and up and up and up in the township versus the borough. So in some ways, this affordable housing thing is about property values. It's about the type of community we have. And I think that's something that we really need to take on. And I'm sure if you made a call, people would come out of the woodwork with ideas, concepts in order to solve that problem. It's something that would add value to the town, not only from monetary value to the homes, but just to the quality of life. So I hope that there's plans to take up what Mr. Ritter had been working on, and maybe a way to extract some of the things he'd been working on. And I'm hearing some hisses, but I think it's about the ideas, not the persons, the people, or whatever was represented behind that.
I don't think just because he's not sitting in this chair that he gave up on the idea
Yeah.
of getting people back and forth to the train station. So, I mean, I'm certainly happy to make sure that the two of you are in touch with one another. Would you?
Absolutely,
Appreciate that?
I would help, but I think that we could make a call,
Yeah.
a larger call.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that this has been an axe to grind in our community for a long time. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, I just used to get the 536. You don't have to worry about where you're parking when you get the
That early,
536. But with all due respect to people who don't need to be to work that early, I know that it's a challenge for families, and they say we're just going to make it work. But it's really hard to make it work sometimes. And I know that former Mayor Ritter is continuing to work on it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mr. Lewis.
Hi, Rich Ryan, Rolling Hill Drive. Again, just hopefully two very quick questions. The first one, I guess, probably directed to Mr. Cruz, unless someone else wants to
If you
take
could
it.
direct them to me, and we'll distribute them as needed.
Certainly. So, Mr. Kelly, when the township last went to meet with the judge to request the extension, I'm not sure if this was discussed yet, did he give a rationale for why he said, I can't simply give that to you, you need to actually file a motion? Was it simply because he did not have the power to do that without a motion, or was he signaling anything with the way he went about requiring us to do this?
Albert, can you shed any light on that?
Well, it wasn't a meeting, an in-person meeting, it was a conference call. In terms of, I don't read anything into the judge. I think there was opposition to granting any kind of extension, and certainly he probably felt that a record should be created. And that's what this will do. So I don't read anything into what this judge did. What I read into is the most recent case that was decided in this area, which was back on August 27th, where a municipality, again, not a direct parallel, but was before a judge for an extension of immunity. And for a variety of reasons, and our papers to the court will distinguish that case factually and legally, but for a variety of reasons, the court stripped them of temporary immunity, subjected them to a builder's remedy. But in that case, the special master recommended a 90-day extension. And the special master is there to offer guidance to the court. As was pointed out by the mayor before, the special masters have an expertise as planners and planners in affordable housing. So they're really an extension of the court. The judge can't dedicate the kind of time that the special master would to the case, or that the lawyers before him would dedicate to the case. And in that particular instance, the special master recommended 90 days, and the judge said no, because of other factors. So I'm guided by what other judges have done. It's an unreported law division case. It's not binding or precedential on our judge. but it serves as guidance. It shows how other judges are thinking. So I am guided by that, and I'm just guided by the sense of, we have already gotten extensions, at least 3. We got a kind of indirect extension from December to February. And the township is using that time between September 17th and February 14th, when the hearing will be, to do these kinds of things that have been discussed tonight. So it is on that combination of factors that I recommend an extension of a request for 120 days. Doesn't mean the judge will give it to us, but it just, that is, I can't really explain that other than that's my best judgment on having worked in this field and having worked on this case for a period.
Okay, great. Last question, and I'm not sure if this has gotten to that level of detail yet, but in any of the discussions that could involve a relocation of the police station over here, has there been a consensus or anything close to that formed on what would happen with the shooting range? And 'cause as much as a lot of people love to complain, I just think that's a very valuable training asset for our police force, so just...
It's not going to move.
Okay. So that would stay there no matter what?
That would stay at, yeah.
Okay.
And if you play tennis at Noe, you know what it's like when you hear the gunshots go off and you blow your shot. But other than that, it'll still stay there.
I just want to make sure it stays somewhere.
Yes.
Very good.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate the input. Seeing no one, I will close the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. I think I'd like to close by just looking ahead at we've got kind of an unusual meeting schedule in January. Just to recap it, the Township Committee is going to meet on January 16th, but that is going to be dedicated to non-affordable housing issues. It will be a planning and goal setting in preparation for the budget. So by all means, the budget is an important issue and you're welcome to come, but the agenda itself will not be pertaining to any action or any discussion on the affordable housing issue. Our next meeting after that will be January 30th. That will be a regular business meeting of the Township Committee. Its primary purpose would be to look at the responses that we get to the filings that we expect that our next order of action here will be to authorize our attorney to file. While we do expect reports back from some of our experts by the end of the month, I can't guarantee that we're going to digest them and present them by the 30th. So we will have to play that one by ear. And then our first meeting in February is February 13th. All those meetings are at 7:30, and they're all open to the public. So I guess getting back to our agenda.
Although, let me just state something that we've talked about too, is that along the way, when we get the judge's decision, or if we get when we're expecting to get these numbers in by the end of January, and then if we can't, then we can always, if they come in a little later and we need some more time, then we can always do a special meeting in February before our February 14th meeting. So we're not really, so stay tuned. We're going to try and keep everybody informed, and as we get the information, as we're able to digest it and put it into a format so that it can be discussed, then we're just going to roll with it. We're not going to stick to the second Tuesday and second Thursday format if we have information to share with the public.
Can I ask you a quick question about the dates, Mike? Nothing to do with the affordable at all. Is
Sure,
it possible that we could all sign up so Greg can give us an email blast on this stuff rather than...
Yeah,
if you go to the township website, you can sign up for email alerts there. I was actually going to ask the mayor for time to speak, and I was going to invite the public to keep an eye on the township website because all meeting agendas are posted on there. So to the extent that I'm aware of what the committee plans to discuss that evening, we do make that public. Typically, the agenda, the initial draft goes up the Friday before a meeting. So if it's a Thursday night meeting, the Friday before is usually the initial draft, and then early the next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we get updated drafts posted as more information comes to light. So, in that transparent spirit, I do ask that people take the time to look at the work that I do to.
So the key date is to check on Friday.
Yeah, the Friday before
Well,
the meeting
you
is
can
the initial
sign up for
draft.
website alerts too.
Yeah.
right? Can you explain that?
Can you explain that?
Yeah,
Greg?
if you go on the township website, there is a spot for signing up for website alerts, update alerts, and the webmaster does send out an email blast whenever agendas get posted. I got one this evening when I had the Board of Health agenda posted. So that's a good way to keep track of updates. And then but still typically the Friday before the meeting is when the initial draft goes up, and then if you want to keep checking between then and the meeting just to keep up to date on what's going to be discussed.
We also have a township Facebook site.
Oh.
And all the meetings are posted. It's Chatham Township. I know it's very creative, but that's the name of our Facebook site. And all the meetings are posted there. There's links to the agendas. There's all sorts of information that we post up there, community events. So we have a variety of opportunities for people to get information.
In addition to checking the website, you can always give me a call during office hours or reach out to Mr. Hoffman to see what's going to be on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Or Twitter. You can follow on
Okay.
Twitter too. It's just any number of social media platforms to follow good old Chatham Township.
We don't do that.
We did
have
close
to-
the public portion, and it's getting late. I think we need to move forward.
But what you're saying is there's no opportunity for us to discuss, for example, particular sites that might be or inclusion in the plan.
Why don't we discuss it afterwards? I'd be happy to talk about it further. Greg, what's the procedure now for our resolution? Would you read the?
Well, the attorney already read the resolution earlier in the meeting.
Just two items, Mr. Mayor. This resolution does authorize me to respond to any opposition to the motion and any cross motion. So you indicated to me that may be the subject of the discussion on the 30th. My intention was in executive session to explore the responses, but no further authorization would be necessary
Good point.
because this covers it.
Okay.
Secondly, you have to insert the date of the
Yes.
requested extension. And I suggested 120 days from February 14th, which would be June 14th.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to insert a date in the missing
Well,
line.
this motion hasn't been, you haven't done anything yet. It hasn't been moved or seconded. So you would be moving it with
resolution?
that date
Okay.
inserted in it. So there's no need to amend anything. You haven't introduced anything. You're just moving it with that date inserted as if it came to you that way.
Okay. I
So
will-
moved,
With what date?
with the date that Albert suggests.
June
With
14th.
June 14th, 2nd.
Very good. Greg, roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco? Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Very good. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We are adjourned.
We're hearing.